Don't hit me again. No, it didn't hurt my trailer none, dude. Yeah.
Then I came in and I didn't know where everybody was lined up, so I was just looking at where I could get in, not looking freaking behind.
Your first time out here?
This is my second time. Last time was when we fished it in the tournament.
Yeah.
So.
Out of the gate, probing the grass line, trying to find active fish, throwing a swim jig. I'd seen about 15 pounds of fish in this area the weekend before during a cold front, following baits, not really trying to bite. So I knew there was some fish in here, and this just confirmed it for me. This is about 15 minutes into the day. That was the first of about 6 fish I lost on a swim jig. Again, I'd fished this grass point the week before during a big cold front or after a big cold front. Water was clear, but wasn't near as windy right here, and the grass was definitely holding a lot of fish. They just weren't biting. So this is my my second bite of the day. It's probably an hour and a half in, hour in. I'd fished this spot earlier with some moving baits, but it's a pretty solid fish. My biggest one of the day. Just flipping that grass a little bit. Fished about half of this from one side of this cove and caught the one fish, and then after I caught this fish I fished a little bit more. I lost a few more fish on a swim jig.
4-6, baby. That's what took it off with your son. You going on the big side, boy.
Again, I'm fishing this clear water. The wind's blowing really hard from the south. You can't tell here. I'm on a protected cove. This is clear water. This is some submerging grass, and hook a real decent fish here on a swim jig, and it come right off. So this is the third or fourth fish I'd lost on a swim jig. And it's like 9:30. 5 minutes after I missed the fish on the swim jig, still pitching that big 4-inch beaver, and they're just not biting really aggressive. I get a bite here and miss it, which again, this is the clear water side of the lake. There's a lot of fish here a week ago. At that point, I should have clued in to change the baits, but I didn't. In this area a week ago, and they're still here. I just need to slow down and really cover this area a little more thorough in this grass and just fish it out at least half the day till the wind gets too bad. So this is what I did. It's where I started here. I tried a wacky rig Senko. I know there's fish here. They didn't move all week. They're probably deeper in this deeper clear water down on that grass edge. But they're not really biting beaver real well. I'm getting some pickups on it, but they're not really eating it like I want them to. So I decided to downsize my line and my bait, but go with a little bit heavier weight. So what I'm doing here, I'm getting a rod that's got 15-pound fluoro versus 20. And I'm tying on a 3/16 ounce weight versus an 1/8, and going with my little Gitsits, my little 3-inch Gitsits, or my little tube, which is a great bait when the fish are acting kind of funky, which they were here. I went with a little heavier weight, get a little more reaction bite in the fall, but a less intrusive bait for that tube, and it ends up paying off here in the summer. This stretch in the morning. We're still about 2 hours in the day probably.
Time to get a downsize, America.
So really had to settle down and start fishing slow, really working that grass, start catching more fish. This really gave me the confidence.
Clear water. They weren't biting that beaver real good at all, so I switched to a little tube, a little bit heavier weight, and time to get a downsize. Boom! Shackle. That's a 3-pounder. Anyway, let's see. 3-1.
I caught. This is in the same cove, and it's probably 9:30, 10ish now, and the boats are starting to come back in. Right, the guys from the club that fished their first spots, and they're starting to kind of move back in here, kind of out of the wind. So I'm getting a little more pressure here. But again, I've only got 2 fish, so this again, I'm still flipping that little tube, and ended up catching this one that weighed 113.
That's 3.
Maybe 3, which I was happy with. Still needed 5, but finally had a little pattern I could go with.
Hickey. That's 3. You'll maybe 2 pounds, maybe. We'll see.
Starting to pop in this cove. I had guys around me. You can probably see them right there. I had a guy in front of me, a guy to the left of me, and a guy behind me. So we're about to cross paths. I cooked this fish, ended up weighing 311 on the little tube, and then I fished a little bit more of this cove, and then decided to leave just because there's too many boats in here. So at this point I had a 4.6, a 3.1, a 113, and this 311 for 4. So I had 4 for 12.15, I think, at this point, which is pretty good at this point. I really wanted to claw out that 113 and catch another 3-pounder. I think, still needing my 5th fish. There's a 10-inch length limit, and this is, I believe, the 6th fish I had come off on a swim jig. This is the 3rd time I fished this bank this day. This is after I caught the 311, just going down this bank, covering water one last time. You see, about to lose another swim jig fish right here. Would have been my 5th fish. You can pick up the tube again, and you see this is catching my 5th fish, a little 12-ounce Kentucky here. They gave me a limit for 1310. On my scales, I believe 1311 came in 2nd for the Derby. This was at about 11 o'clock. I finally got my 5th fish after I lost 6 on a swim jig at this point. All the guys are sort of filtering that clear water at this point, so I decided to swap ends and go to the dirty side, deeper in the lake. 2 weeks before this Derby, I went out and practiced or pre-fished with a friend of mine. We ended up catching 15, almost 16 pounds. A lot of it, most of our fish come from this end of the lake, but our bigger quality came from that clear water. So I needed to pull out here. So I'm flipping the beaver again at this point with a 1/4 ounce weight in this grass, just trying to cover water. I'm about 10 minutes into this spot. There's another guy in the derby on the opposite side of me, so when I hook this fish, I'm trying not to really make a big scene, but wind's howling along this grass edge, and finally hooked this fish. I think this fish went 3-1. No, this fish went 2-11, which cold that 12 ouncer, which is a big cold for me. Gave me 15-ish pounds probably, right at 15. And if you watch my rod tip blow it up here in a little bit, because it's so windy, you can't feel. I couldn't feel the bites. I was really feeling them when I was lifting up. And you'll see my rod tip blow it up right there, and then I realized, oh, that's a fish, just at the hook. So this fish really helped me out and put me over the top in the derby. I think it went 2-1, giving me, I think I weighed in 15-15. I caught another one that was 2 even, roughly. Put it on the coal scale, didn't give me anything. So this fish gave me 3 ounces. Ended up with 15-15 for first place. Big bass. Didn't have big bass. Big bass was 6-6, and Jonathan, I think, coming second with 13-11. I may be wrong on that. He may have had more than that, but yeah, the game plan played off. So flipping that windy grass really boosted my limit.